Welcome everyone to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. This is the show that covers all phases and aspects of divorce so that you can avoid common, costly, and sometimes permanent mistakes and have a smarter, saner, savvier divorce. Our host today is Lisa Decker, certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. Lisa is also the CEO and founder of Divorce Money Matters and the organization that brings you this show, Divorce Town USA. So Lisa, what can our viewers look forward to today?
Thank you for that introduction, Marcella, my wonderful executive assistant and the producer of this show. We work hand in hand to bring you the latest information in the world of divorce. So I want to let you know that, as you probably know if you've been watching our show, Divorce Town always advocates low conflict cooperative divorce whenever possible. However, we know that sometimes some of you are just aren't going to be able to make that possible, no matter how hard you try and how well-intentioned you may be. So today we've invited Howard Steuer, and I hope I haven't messed up your last name, Howard. You'll have to repeat that for us, the correct name spelling, and how to contact you as somewhere along the way in the show here. But Howard is Vice President of Beam Forensics, and he's going to talk with us about the do's and don'ts of divorce in the digital age. Ooh, this is going to be a really hot topic because this, life right now is all about digital everything, your phones, your social media, your tablets, your computers. And so we're going to talk about what you want to do and what you don't want to do, just as importantly. Howard leads business development at Beam Computer Forensics, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the firm as well. And he has worked at Levi Strauss and Company during his career and presented and trained IT, business productivity, and leadership courses across a plethora of medium for different organizations. And he resides in Atlanta. We're lucky to have him here in our neck of the woods, but I think he probably does work outside of this area too, if you're watching. So Howard, welcome to the show. And why don't you share with us the correct pronunciation of your name first, and then tell us about Beam Forensics and how you came to step into this role.
I'm happy to. And Lisa, thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here today. And hopefully we'll be providing some really good information to everybody out there. So the correct pronunciation of my last name is Steuer. You were close, but just know you're in good company. A lot of people do mispronounce our last name. So I am a vice president at Beam Computer Forensics, and we support attorneys and also the general public in helping them understand what type of digital evidence might be related to legal matters in their lives. And in many of the cases that we work on, it involves divorce. So our company can go out and look at the current devices that you may have, and even iCloud accounts, and we can talk about that later. But we can go into all types of different electronic devices, and a device can be anything from a phone to a laptop, a tablet. It can even be cameras that you have in your house, electronic surveillance cameras. And we'll be able to image that data, which is really important, and collect it in a sound manner that's legally defensible, and help search for events, search for pieces of information that are relevant to the legal matters. And we will provide that information to the legal community, to the attorneys that we work with, and ultimately with with their clients. So our company has been in business for several years, and we hold a lot of licenses and accreditations and certifications to be able to do it. Our team is comprised of what's called digital forensic experts, and that's really important when you find yourself needing to find digital evidence, is to make sure that you're working with a digital forensic expert. So again, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to continuing our conversations.
Well, we're glad to have you here. So it sounds to me like digital forensics is almost like private investigation of all of your digital devices. Have we got that right?
Yeah, it actually is. So when you see on the, I hate to use by example, but on the TV shows, the CSI and all of that, you'll see them scurrying around looking for what's called material and also digital evidence, or material forensics and digital forensics. And they both work hand in hand, but what we do is everything that is electronic and digital. And it is very important to almost all investigations, almost all legal matters, is finding that information accurately and in a sound manner and collecting it properly and then presenting it properly to support your legal matter that you have.
Mm. And is this you talked about certifications? Is this a specific licensure for this type of forensics?
There are several because as with all technologies, the technology moves so quickly. There are so many different platforms and tools that we use, and our digital forensic examiners have all of the top rated certifications. And you can find that information on our website, which is beamcomputerforensics.com.
Great, great. Okay, let's talk about a few things here. So you mentioned the digital devices in our lives being, everything from our phone to the cameras that we have in our house. And I don't think a lot of people maybe thought about that, but these devices are wonderful in keeping us connected and on track and secure. But there can be some problems with those. Why don't you talk about some of that and how it can open the door for privacy issues?
Sure. So technology has moved so quickly over the past 10 years, 5 years, even within the last year. Most of us, if not all of us, are walking around with a phone, a mobile phone, iPhones and Android phones. We use laptops and computers for work and for personal. We have very sensitive and important information on a personal and also on a professional level on these devices. Just think about what's on your phone today. I've got an iPhone here. I'm sure everybody has either an iPhone or an Android. And think about all the passwords. Think about your iCloud account, all of the photographs that you have, files, music, pictures, videos. Just think about all of that that's on there. And I liken all of this to digital breadcrumbs that you leave behind you with everything that you do in your life. And that can be very helpful. And the idea behind and really why we have digital devices in our lives is to make our lives easier. And if you're good at it, and most people are and getting better, you're able to make your life more efficient and you're able to make your life easier. However, with that being said, it also presents gaps of information and security issues where if you are going through a divorce or you're going through a separation or any other legal matter, it produces evidence. It produces information that, and not just evidence, but it produces information that if in the wrong hands can really hurt you badly, particularly when you're going through a divorce. If your spouse has access to your passwords, has access to your iCloud account, you're compromised. If they have a listening device, and we can talk about that in a little bit, a simple listening device inside of your house, you're compromised. So we like to think of digital devices as something that's really wonderful in our lives, and it can be and it should be, but you also have to be very careful about what you have and where you have it. And we'll talk more in detail specifically about that, about the importance of knowing what devices you have, what devices you share with other people, what your passwords are, how to get in and out, how to change your passwords. All of these things are so important in protecting yourself and using the digital devices for what they're meant to be, to make our lives better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is important to have an inventory of all of those things. Sometimes we even have old computers that we've left somewhere in the house, and even that I'm sure you need to be aware of, and you can tell us more about that, how to unhook ourselves, unleash from those things so that they don't leave any trails behind, even if it's not a spouse. Maybe it's going off to the salvage yard for electronics or something, and how can you protect your information? So you talked about the what, where, and how of your electronic devices, and give us a little bit more information about that, since we're talking about this, and how to protect all of the devices that you may remember and maybe not.
Yeah, so I think that probably the most important piece of information that I can leave with everybody is to know what you have, know where you have it and who you have it with. And this is something that can take only a couple hours of your time, but it'll save you hundreds and hundreds of hours and a lot of aggravation down the road. So specifically, what I recommend is making a list, a very thorough list, and taking some quiet time. Do it with a cup of coffee if you want, but make a list of all of your devices first, and then go back at that list, and then think about who might be using that device with you. It could be your children, it could be a sibling, it could be your husband. Who's sharing this device with you? Specifically, a laptop in a house that could be used by several different people. A phone, most likely it's only being used by you. So I would account for each device, and then I would also have a column next to that showing who's using that device with you. I would then also put down what the passwords are, what your user ID and what your passwords are. This is something that is so complicated these days because we all started out years ago with having a simple password. Now we have tens of different websites and devices and things, and our passwords are always changing on us, not because we want to, but because the software companies and our electronic devices require us to change them. And I don't know whether I'm coming or going. I don't know if anybody out there does, but it's important to write everything down. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, why it's important to have everything written down. And also outside of the electronic devices, because those are the simple ones to think about, your phones, your laptops, your tablets. You would also do it if you have a security system in your house. Think about anything else, your iCloud account or your cloud account that you may have. A lot of times people don't think about that. And these cloud accounts, and for those who don't truly understand what a cloud account is, it's simply, if you want to look at it, as information that's stored somewhere else. It's not here on our computers. It's stored somewhere else, and there are companies that have our information stored, and that's what the cloud is. And you can find your information, you can work with your information from the cloud. So it's important to have that as well.
I just wanted to jump in here really quick about that, because one of the things I know in our family, we share one Apple plan in the family. So all of us have access to that Apple plan. We also share a Spotify account. So we all have access to that Spotify account. And so is there, in that account, if your family's all sharing one account, like an Apple account, can you access your other? I mean, I've never tried to do it unless maybe, I'm trying to track my son, but can you access each other's apps and that sort of thing too, when you're sharing accounts like that?
Absolutely. And now let's go into the dark side of this, where you can become compromised. And I've got so many different legal matters, divorces that we get brought into where we have people that are compromised. We have, people who want to get through a separation or a divorce for all the right reasons. It's a terrible situation, but then when you try to get through it, you're compromised because your spouse has your passwords. They have information. They may be more technologically savvy than you are. And being compromised is a terrible, terrible thing. If somebody has your passwords, somebody has your user ID and passwords, knows your favorite color is brown, knows what college you went to and what passwords you may be making up, they can get in and they can find information about you. Examples of this, and it does get pretty terrible, where we get brought in oftentimes where an attorney will say, my client and I are compromised. We feel like the opposing counsel knows what we're doing and our next steps. How do they know that? They must be reading our emails, or there's a listening device somewhere around here we're being bugged. And you know what? Just simply having a user ID and a password to an email account or to your iCloud account, someone can get in and look at everything that you're doing, your emails back and forth, and you are compromised, and it's not a good place to be in.
So I'm curious. I'm sorry, Marcella. Before I forget, you're saying to write it all down. Where do you hide? Where do you suggest the best place to hide what you've written down is? Because you don't want them getting a hold of that either.
Well, someplace where you're not going to lose it. I'm guilty of this. And I've walked around for days looking for that list. So years ago, somebody gave me a really good idea. So if you have a safe in your house or even at the bank, if you don't have anything at the bank, I recommend getting a safety deposit box. In many cases, they're free. I would keep a copy of the list there. If you have a safe in your house and it's secure, if you're going through a divorce, it may not be secure if everybody knows what the password is. But I think having it in a secure environment is good. Leaving it sitting around in the kitchen in a drawer where your spouse is coming and going and they know where it is not a good idea if you're going through a divorce. We have if I may, we have a current matter that we're working on where we've got a lady that is totally compromised in her home. No matter what she does, her spouse keeps resetting passwords and user IDs, and he's technologically savvy. She's not, and it's so difficult. And once you're compromised and somebody gets in, it's like untangling, just it's so difficult to do. So it's not a good place to be. So again, the most important thing that I want to impart on everyone today is to know what you have, where it is, who you share it with. Make a list, keep it in a safe and secure place that you know where it is. And then I would also have a backup of that in a lockbox at a bank at a separate place. And then when you do updates and you change your passwords and user ID, make sure you update the list too. But don't hide it so well that you can't find it, because that, again, I did that. It's not good.
I'm laughing because we've all done that, I'm sure. At least those of us who are getting a little older in our years.
Agreed.
Oh, goodness. What question did you have, Marcella?
I just wanted to ask, it seems from everything that Howard has mentioned that really the best time to do this would be sooner rather than later. So if you're contemplating divorce, you may want to start protecting yourself up front. Even if you're planning on having a collaborative and cooperative divorce, it doesn't hurt to keep yourselves protected. And even I'm thinking if maybe you're served with divorce papers is probably that you weren't expecting, let's say, maybe then is the time to immediately take steps. What do you think about, is that true? Should it be, I mean, it just sounds like it's definitely sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Marcella, you're 100% accurate. So for everybody watching this, do it now. Tell your friends and people around you that may be in a situation where things are changing in your life. And even if you're not, just do it anyway. It's always easier, so much easier to do it preventatively, proactively, early, upfront, than it is to do downstream when you're in the middle of all of the stress and everything is going on and you're compromised. When the stress could potentially hit, you get like phantom fears too, that you think that somebody's listening or somebody's watching or reading emails, and it may not be. If you do all of what we're talking about today in advance, upfront, early, hopefully you won't need to fall back on anything there, right? But if you do, you're prepared and you're ready to move forward, and it's by your terms, and it's following a path that you want to follow, not feeling insecure, not feeling compromised, and feeling in a good direction that you want to lead yourself with your attorney.
I did just want to jump in here quickly about joint accounts. We don't get to block spouses out of joint things. Typically, when you're in the middle of a divorce process, that's very much frowned upon. So we are talking about personal things here, personal accounts, personal devices, personal property, things that you have jointly that are going to need to be addressed during the divorce process. You can't and shouldn't probably lock your spouse out of that. Definitely frowned upon, and will definitely ruin a collaborative process.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's talking about bank accounts, brokerage, things like that. Very important, which what Marcella just brought to light. So yes, make sure we're talking about the right kind of accounts. For this program, we're talking about your digital accounts. And Howard, I couldn't help but think as you were talking that a lot of this is probably good to prevent or to deal with identity theft, because you have to go with the same kind of process if you find your identity stolen. And if you've got a quick cheat sheet to look at of what are all the accounts that I have, and can run around and update all of your passwords very quickly, it's a lot less laborious, and aggravating, time consuming if you are prepared ahead of time. So I like this idea overall for many reasons.
Yeah, and again, 2 hours today could save hundreds of hours in aggravation tomorrow. So directly following this TV show, please, everyone go out there and find what you have, where it is, and write it all down. And the having if you do move forward with a divorce, it's also important to let your spouse know that you have all of your information, and that you have all of your devices accounted for, and that the expectation is they're not going to do anything foolish with the devices, because you have everything written down. You're technologically savvy now, and you're in a position of equality, right? And that's important, to do things fairly, so that also they don't feel that you're compromising them, and so that they also understand that you are in a prepared state, in a professional and in a good state, that you have everything. You have it listed. You also, can, through counsel, let them know that if the devices are involved, their devices might be involved with digital evidence as well, that they need to preserve the devices. The devices can't go swimming. They can't be run over by a car. That you have their devices accounted for too. They have an iPhone, and you share an iCloud account, and the information is here. You have the passwords. So all of that, producing that early on and being fair and honest about things will also, I believe, help downstream as well.
Okay, well, let's see. Can you give us an example of a person going through divorce that was compromised by technology? And one thing that I meant to ask you that I just remembered, by writing these items down and their password and their serial number and your user ID, you obviously have a paper trail of all of your devices and how you should be able to get into them.
Yes.
But how is this stopping your spouse from getting in and compromising? Tell me, how does someone compromise? Do they add something, a listening device inside of your computer somehow, or put a tracker on your car, or, and I'm not sure if you deal with trackers on the car, but with the digital devices, your phone, how do they actually compromise your phone?
So there is software, there are things that can be embedded into your phones and in your computers. It takes a fairly high level of technology savvy to do that. In most cases, we don't see that. We have people thinking that that's going on, but in most cases, it's not. And it's as simple as people have user ID and passwords, and they can get in and they can pull up your emails, they can pull up your text messages, if they can get into your iCloud account. We do see in some cases where we have to bring in a PI specialist that will do a sweep, an electronic sweep into homes to see if there are any unauthorized devices that are in those homes. And we do find them sometimes. And they can be as simple as like cameras, like small little cameras that, or even doorbell ringers that that you put on the front of your door. You don't have to put those on your door. You could stick them under a cabinet and you have a listening device inside the house. Yeah. So I'm not suggesting that everybody move immediately to a state of I'm being listened to, but just be aware that that can happen. The whole thing about being compromised, it's never a good place to be. But again, if you have all the information and you have it up front, and God forbid, if you do get in a place where the digital evidence is needed to support or protect anyone that's listening to this, your attorney can walk through different steps and a process to work with a digital forensic expert like us at Beam Computer Forensics, where we'll identify the devices, where they are. And we then take what's called an image or a collection of what's on that digital device. So think about on your phone, all the different files and everything that's there, as well as the operating system. A company like ours will come in and take an image of that phone as of a certain point in time, and it legally preserves everything that's there. So if there's something that's deleted or the phone is destroyed, it could fall in a pool or go swimming, and then it could potentially be gone. We've preserved everything that's on there that may be very, very helpful for the legal matter that you're in, and your attorney will help guide you through all of this, all the different steps. And again, we talked, Marcella, you brought it up earlier. Do it soon. Do it on the front end of any type of action that involves a divorce where you think you're going down that path. Just have steps in place, be prepared, know what you have and where it is. It's so important.
This is great advice, folks. We're so happy to have Howard here today, sharing his expertise in the world of digital forensics. That's a new terminology in our day and age. So you're hearing some cutting edge things here today, and I hope that you will take that to heart. Not only for matters of divorce, but also for protecting yourself from identity theft and other matters out there. So Howard, thank you so much for being here today. And Marcella, I know you're going to round up the show here with a few slides, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Lisa. So we do just have a couple of things that we want to make our audience aware of, some resources that you can download, that you can save for future reference or use right now. The first one is the Divorcetown Roadmap. As Lisa mentioned at the beginning, we always advocate a cooperative, collaborative process whenever possible. And this ebook is going to help give you some different ideas of how you may be able to make that work in your personal situation. That can be found on divorcetownusa.com, and you can right on the homepage, just enter your email and it'll go right to your box. Another free resource that Lisa has put together for our audience is the free divorce financial fitness kit. And this is available at our other website, divorcemoneymatters.com. This will get you organized financially. It has a great spreadsheet to get your documents organized. And this may be a good place for you to start also your password list that Howard talked about today as well, because this is something that you're going to want to keep handy throughout your divorce. Last but not least, we also have a support group. This is also free and open to the public. It is available through meetup.com, or you can go to Divorcetown USA and click events, and our upcoming meetings will also be there, and you can join the group through that avenue as well. Finally, what we have coming up next week, another great show, when to dig deeper and when to stop. We're going to talk a little bit more about forensics, but this time we're going to go into some financial matters of divorce and when you might need financial forensics. So we'll be interviewing Lori G. Dyke, founding partner of IAD Forensics, and you won't want to miss that show. It's going to be great. So we want to thank all of you for joining us today. As always, while we help America and indeed the world divorce better, one family at a time. Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure.
Thank you. See you next time.